Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
everyone. That half an hour break went so quick. It's good to see more faces up and about now. Oh, it's lovely to see you. Like I said previously, we've got quite a few people booked in, about 50 or so. So they will be receiving the recording just as you have it available. So just to be aware that that's going on behind the scenes as well, that we're connecting up to these people. And we do have some questions throughout these sessions from different people that are receiving the recording and are live with us. So welcome to this Q&A or the questions on the teacher's training. And I'm just going to explain a little bit about how I was guided to bring the teachers training through. So as we know, the fundamental training came together over about 10 to 12 years of thousands of healing sessions I did and lots of guidance from spirit and a huge amount of channelings on the changes of the world and how the world's evolving and how this energy is working with the body as its blueprint. The DNA is changing, how the alchemy of the world is changing to enable us to recode new elements into our body and consciousness, even into the bigger picture of our evolution, just not in this dimension like the earth moving forward now, which I'm going to be talking a lot more about now. But also, what I mean, at this point in my channelings, I go a lot more into that. But also about our own process of evolution, how alchemy is changing us. It's just not our health in this reality. It's actually changing to enable us to integrate more what we call the subtle system that I talk about in Beyond Doorways from the very beginning of my teachings through Beyond Doorways. I talk about this life body system, the grid, the DNA, how we would go through a, a, a viral kind of mutation process to decode old distortions, how and then I go into the Beyond Doorways book and I do the fundamental and advanced, how the grid's changing and how alchemy is changing in a way that's never been done before, and how we're absorbing elements. And now I'm moving more into teaching more about the subtle system, which we do work with procedures. As you know, you work with the higher and upper chakras in certain procedures moving into the advanced level. So, I was seeing changes in our patterning that hadn't even solidified. That's why we were struggling. We were struggling in our clearing process because we were in this huge point of evolution and change alchemically, beginning now, right, in this reality. So that was all that I did many years of channelings to show the bigger picture as I developed transference healing. And it is a key. It is a key to this healing and ascension process that's prophesized to come about. I believe that a lot of ancient texts, and this is why now I'm translating the book of Revelations. I didn't choose to do that. I was guided to do that by Spirit. The information I'm sharing comes from my higher self, comes through the guidance of divine counsel and higher guidance of Spirit to actually say, well, this was all prophesized. It's just hidden in certain you could say some esoteric but more religious texts like the Old and the New Testament, the Old Testament specifically in the book of Revelation in the New Testament. So it's been, and even in ancient civilizations and ancient mystery schools, they knew, and the Mayan calendar, they knew this time of evolution would come. It's just not been brought out to human consciousness because we weren't ready. And that's the awakening that we're going through now, and we're ready to absorb this knowledge. So a lot of the knowledge that I give and channel is to help you expand your awareness as the alchemy is running in your system through transference healing, through the fundamental and advanced. So it took me, a good part of 12 years to establish all the groundwork there, the procedures, the manuals, the books, Beyond Doorways, the fundamental, the advanced, and then into the mystery school was an extension of that to give that bigger picture again and more tools and more, more practices to self master this process. So, where does the teacher's training sit in all of this? Well, I think it starts at the very beginning. I can remember what we all do. I believe everybody that comes into transference healing, I've either worked with before, it's part of my contract, or their future self comes in now because of where they got to in their future self. It's very difficult to explain that. I do that more with the subtle system when I'm explaining it. But I believe I feel that I have a spiritual contract. So anybody that comes through to book in to do the fundamentals, to me, that's the beginning of an ascension process of ascension, healing and ascension. And you could say process of the mystery school, basically, which is a process of healing and ascension, right? And my spirit feels it. I actually feel okay. And you could say for that period of time in your evolution, I am your teacher at that period of time in your evolution. And that's how I feel in spirit. It's not something I think about or say, oh, I'm teaching you or anything. It's just a spiritual feeling. So when I get that feeling, I make a spiritual connection with you through your light system. I just do. I see things. I know things. I just do. When I go and explain more about the Q&A and the mystery school, I'll explain this a little bit more because what I've just experienced again for the first one that went online this year. So, and I'm aware that there's many people in the world running the energy, receiving the energy, reading, so receiving the energy through the Beyond Always book. Then I know there's many people that are learning through other teachers. Even if I have not met you and you're going to have come online to do a reset with me after doing the fundamentals or in fundamentals advance with another teacher, I'm still sign your certificate. I know who you are. It's not, I make a spiritual connection. I just do. It just happens on a higher plane. And then when I get to actually see you online, I see your face. If you're training with me with the fundamental and advanced, I see your face. So I can make a coherent, conscious connection, but I already know you. I already feel you because I have a connection with you. And, you know, that's a two-way street because if you choose to run the energy, you're making that choice to have that connection and support from me. It just is the way it is. There's this higher frequency that's running behind it all. So when I was a child, a born psychic and spiritual, I was looking for my teacher. And I want to share that with this Q&A because when I was thinking about, well, what do I want to say about the teachers and what does that really mean for people? And I was a very spiritual person, but I couldn't find my faith in institutionalized religions. I was like we all are connected to spirit through, crystals. And I was very interested in the stars and astrology and all, but I didn't study any of it. I just connected to it and I saw knowledge through crystals and grids and sacred sites. I'd get a download. I'd connect to the stars. I'd feel an activation. I'd see what it does in the earth and in the crystalline structure of our body. And I was constantly learning. So I was on my path from a small child. My parents picked up I was psychic. They didn't know what to do with me, right? So I think what happened was by the time I was 7, 8, 9, 10, as we do, we ask big questions. But by the time I was 15, 16, 17, I kept saying, well, I'd say to spirit, I'm looking for my spiritual teacher. And I had lots of guides. I always listened to my guides. I always followed my guidance from spirit. But I was looking for my earth teacher. And I went, and through my work, I got to travel and do a lot of work in many locations. I met many shamans. I looked at different lineages. I felt that I've been told I've been a Hindu master in a past life. That's why I understand the etheric system. But I still couldn't find this teacher. And then Lord Melchizedek came through and the High Council was behind him. And I think it was around the time I was probably I'd say roughly, but probably be around 24 to 26, 27. And I was getting quite known at that point in my life. But really to 32 when I was traveling internationally a lot and working with big groups, started really doing that they said, Lexus, you are the teacher. That's what they said to me. And I think that's the first time I realized, okay, Okay, so my teachers are in spirit, and I'm a vessel or a channel for me. And through my own self mastery, I'm in here to teach people. And everything that I do is a teaching. Even when I'm training and I'm teaching procedures, but there's an alchemy running. I'm also a channel, you see. So I didn't go somewhere to learn how to teach. I didn't get educated. I didn't study anything. It's just my wisdom and my gifts and my destiny is they told me you are to teach. You are the teacher. So then I stopped looking and I said, okay, put your big boots on and you got to get out there, Lex, and give and just be that channel. And if people ask you a question, just give them your answer, um, you know, and if you don't know, there's nothing you can give there. But I would always find it didn't matter where I was and what I was doing, as long as I was in 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 the realm of spirit, meaning my whole life is spiritual because all I do is work for spirit. You know what I mean? I'm always channeling, or I'm always touching a crystal, or always helping people through trainings. I'm just constantly living in the realm of spirit, and I'm constantly feeding energy and teaching. That's just my life. It's my reality every single day of my life. Even if I'm not on a platform like online with everybody, I'm doing it in spirit. I'm all in my Merkaba. I've got you coming and going all the time, moving my solar system. So I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly teaching. So if somebody comes up with a Q&A question anywhere I am in the world and they ask me a question, I have an answer. I just do. And is that not teaching? It doesn't matter what they ask me if I'm meant to know the answer. And I always know when I get that question, I always know there's an energetic shift when I answer that question. So they might have a Q&A comes through online. Megan will read the question to me and I just answer it, and I'll look up and I'll know who asked me because Megan will say this came through from Sandy, who's in, Paris or wherever, because we work with people in different places in the world, right? And I would get this imprint of that energy, that person, an energetic imprint. And I would get an answer, and I would answer the reason behind literally what the source of that question. It would literally feed them on the stream of consciousness that they needed. And I'd also know that there would be an energy behind that, and that would shift their perception and broaden their perception, and they would change through that one question. So that to me is wolf magic. That's a teacher. A teacher is this innate wisdom inside of you through your own embodiment process, your own journey. This is why when you come through to do the teacher's training, it's not about teaching you how to teach. Nobody will ever teach you how to be a good teacher, trust me. It's your own journey and the embodiment of your learning curves and the practices that you do by running the energy all the time. And then when you listen through your own growth, through running the energy, through your own realizations, through your own awakening, and then through the realizations and the growth that you get with running energy on other people, which you get to do with the advanced level freely if you choose to get more out in the world, or even with your family. It's through that growth. And I believe the way that the energy is structured, it's stepping stones of learning. It's through that whole process that your own inner voice, I call it the word, starts to birth itself. And in that process, you're in that process of self-mastery. So teaching to me isn't about a 3D thing of just sitting down and just saying, if you chose to teach the fundamental training, Megan will go through and explain what's available through the teacher's training. If you choose to do that, you have everything provided for you in the manuals to teach. So you can't go wrong with that. It's all written down. Anybody can read and write. So when you're actually giving a a manual to somebody and you're reading from that manual and you're reading the procedures that you've been running and that's written in the manual, well, you can't go wrong with that. And that's what I say to people. As long as you teach it the way it's written, it's perfect. Don't change it. Don't think you've got a better way of doing it. You just teach it, because what you don't realize, in that moment, the energy is supporting you and that person you're teaching to receive something bigger than you and that procedure. It has a ripple effect that's so magical and alchemical. You're just an instrument. You're just a voice for that to happen, do you see? But can't you also see that the magic that happens for you, the knowledge and the wisdom that you recognize you've gained, and the way you feel by being of service, and the way that you feel and honor that magic for running and saying, well, wow, where did that come from? Well, it came through you as an instrument because you're teaching in the way that you were taught, right? From the divine, not from just me. I learned from the divine. I'm just an instrument for the divine, but I'm growing through my commitment to listening to spirit and teaching properly and making sure it's taught properly. That's why I put all of this groundwork into the structure behind all the manuals and all the work and all the copyright to keep it pure, right, for you, so that when you teach, you have everything you need. They have everything that they need. But I know that when you teach it with that intent, you have so much more coming through you that's supporting you and everybody around you that's more divine. Do you see? And that keeps it pure. It's like the 10 monkey syndrome. If you don't keep it pure, you have distortions building, and everything's set up for you to do that. So teaching begins as soon as you start to awaken to the point where this innate wisdom and knowledge bursts within you. And then when you look at the procedures and you choose then to become more of a voice for them and to become and begin to teach them, well, then that knowledge and wisdom cultivates and grows more and more and more. And then that sheds out for other people and out into the world. And that's a very empowering process. And I believe that I don't know how much I know because I go through such big upgrades in myself internally through my own personal internal work every day of my life, and through the channelings that I do and the upgrades that I go on and the activations I get and the purifications I go through to take that next step. I don't know how much I know till I begin to teach again. When people ask me a question, I just know it. And that's this innate wisdom. I get to, I guess, embody and become that wisdom. I start to okay, well, I've become that wisdom because I've expressed it out, and it's beautiful. And that person, and I've seen people have healing just by me answering a question, right? Because that energy is running, it's fluent, it's alive, and it's coming from something more of higher consciousness and divinely orchestrated. And that enables it to then run energy. So I see them go through a healing and I go, wow, that's great. And then we'll move on. The other thing that comes in when you're teaching, do you know how hard it is to help people make a shift of perception? You have harmony alignment point 9 in your fundamental procedures, and that is such a big key. There's harmony alignment point 9. There's another point with brain, and what it does, harmony point 9. It's in the child of light procedure too, I think. It's a heart-based shift of perception. It's a heart-based shift of consciousness. It's when you're connecting through your higher self, and it comes from your heart. So you're actually speaking from your heart and higher self. Once you do that, it shifts astral energy. So I know when I answer a question, it's always something they didn't even think about until I answered it. And it has a shift of perception. I literally see the heart, throat, and third eye activate. I see a shift of vibration. And I see them literally go, what? Oh. And that's a healing to me. You see, it's all interconnected. So the teacher's training to me is on that level, it's to give you the opportunity and the support. You get a manual with huge amount of information in there of what's available, and it will take you a lifetime and beyond to even begin to embody all of that. It's not like I take it and I train you month in, month, month after for the next 10 years to embody this menu, because you can't teach people to teach, like I've been saying to you. It is something that fluently comes alive as you awaken, and you will be teaching before you even sit down to ever teach. If you, some people don't even train people, but they do the teacher's training to take that initiative process. And you do go through initiations with Lord Melchizedek. I do connect you into the a higher council of energy and connection, because there's a whole embodiment process of initiations you move through. I call it the stairway of heaven. There's an analogy in the sacred texts about that. So you're actually saying, well, you know what? I'm finding my voice. I'm going to sit down and learn what it is to be a teacher or read. I have this whole manual of everything that Transparency Healing is providing for me. Everything, the books and the codes and the keys and the products and everything. Even our product range is being created to support you, and then to support the people around you, then to support your graduate base if you choose to. But it's really about finding your voice, and it's really about owning your sense of self in that moment so that you can express who you truly are in the world, and you can express, and when you do that, it draws people in. You got to remember all of this, and technology gets so big, we're going to have so much filtering of information out into the world. It's going to be massive. You got to remember back in the day when I started, there was none of that. And I had such an impact because people felt my light. They just get drawn to you. People will, if you're meant to connect to somebody, their higher self will connect to your higher self, and you might not even know it until the time comes. I've had so many people say to me, I had a dream about you years ago, and now that I see you, I know why you're my teacher. It just happens when you're embodying and expressing through your voice and your divine I am, your innate wisdom that you're cultivating. You're living your spirituality and your light shining, and then you're free. You're unburdening this suppression, and everything that everything starts to move differently in your life, because there's this frequency and vibration running through you, through the word, through the thought, then the word. You know what I mean? And it's liberating for you. The other thing on a practical level is it's only a 1 day workshop training, but it's not that. Like I said, we have people come back and reset the training all the time, and we find that with the teachers, they come back in to feel Lord Melchizedek and the council, to make what they're feeling. They're making that next step for themselves in their self-mastery, but they're also beginning to see how, when in their state of expression and the way that they're speaking and how it's changing people around them, they're starting to see the potential of what they could do next. So for some people, it would be, I think I'm finally ready to teach the fundamentals. Or there could be some people saying, well, I'm going to go into teachers because I really want to go through this higher level of initiation. And I really want to get clear on so much more of what I'm doing. And the teacher's training helps them do that. And then they have their Merkaba meditation with Lord Melchizedek. They go through this whole upgrade in themselves. Then we have teachers come in and say, I want all of that, but I need to know what I can do next, because I've got graduates now wanting to do this. So I need to get more clear. So then they'll come back and they'll hear things in the teacher's training that's always been in the manual, but they won't read it or see it until they hear it from me. Do you understand? And that's when they start to go, oh, I can, have you listened to something over and over and you don't really hear it? You hear it, but you don't hear it. And do you make that real deep soul revelation? Well, that's what happens. And I get that all the time. People might say to me, even after a channeling, let's, they'll ask me a question and I'll look at them and answer their question. And I said, but didn't you ask me that a few years ago? Because I'll have this memory recall. And I'll go, yeah, I did. Well, I said, well, you couldn't hear me. It's even in the Bible, in the esoteric hidden texts, or Gnostic texts, they say, well, Jesus said, you have the eyes, but you could not see me. You had the ears, but you could not hear me. That's what I mean. In your awakening, you can read something or you can see something, but you don't really get it until you really, really meant to get it. And you've probably said that to yourself. You've probably said, oh my God, you told me that 3 years ago and I thought I knew what I was doing, but now I get it on a whole nother level because you're at a different level of consciousness. So with the manual, it's all written down for you and you'll have read it, but you probably won't be ready to embody it and really won't get it until you are at the point of consciousness where you're ready to take the next step. And you'll find that the manual is still there supporting you. It's still there. You'll go back and say, oh my God, I don't know how many times in the beginning when we first met, wrote the manual, and you go through this whole questionnaire around one aspect of the manual and a teaching. And then within a month, you'd get all these emails about the question that you just answered. And you'd say, well, you'll answer the question again and go back and look at page 20 in the manual. Oh, I'm so sorry, Alexis, I did not see that. Well, what we find now, that was back in the beginning. So what we've managed the manual in a way through many years of experience to make sure it runs fluently so that you then can determine which part of the manual you're working with. You know what I mean? It's so much more. Everything is there for you. There is not one thing that is lacking, I believe, in that manual, because it's not written in a way to sit you down and teach you how to teach, because like I said, you can't do that. It's written in a way to guide you how to become a better teacher, the ethics, the initiations, and I go through. We do go into the practicalities. Megan will go through that in a minute. What you can do through the support of transference healing to become a teacher for the fundamentals, what products you can buy wholesale, what smaller workshops, what we call workshops that you can go then and become a teacher of once you've done the teachers. And there's quite a lot of people who come in, like I said, just to connect into the energy, the Jacob's ladder, the bigger picture, to feel Melchizedek, and then to get that initiation through that to enter through into the mystery school. And in that way, they probably say, you know what, I'm never going to teach fundamentals, but I am going to become a teacher for my family, for my children. I'm going to be able to be for my community. I'm going to be, if I've got a client, I'm going to be empowered through the word to have that fluency. That's what you're saying. You're saying you want to self-master and get that guidance from the divine in that process, right? And I just believe the more you honor the energy and the more you educate yourself, if you need to do a reset to get some clarity on the practical, what will happen is that magic will just keep running. You will actually then find that you will have more situations come up in your life where you are teaching. You will find that you might feel compelled to teach when you never thought you would. And you'll find that your sense of self-expression and the way that you live and the way that you communicate is changing. So you'll just feel that embodiment and that empowerment process without putting any pressure on yourself. I always say to people, you are what you do, not what you say. So to me, I know my life is an expression of who I am. So teaching is part of my life. It's a big part of my life. But the funniest thing is, I have to be truly honest with you, and everybody knows that in the energy, or everybody close to me, I hate the teachers' training day because, Megan's probably laughing behind the scenes, and she does so well at it when she goes into the practicalities of it, because I know you can do more than what you think you can. I know that it's got a lot of your journey will come down to self-expression, and through your knowledge and wisdom that you're cultivating, that will be a natural, divinely orchestrated process, even if you don't know that. I do, and I can't help people believe in themselves. You know what I mean? I know when they go through that process of struggle, what if I get this wrong, or did I do this right? To me, that's the ego doubting the self. You know what I mean? I know that if your intent is clear, it'll be perfect. I know it because I know that we have done everything in our power, and I believe I have done spiritually and practically everything that I can do to support you to become what you can be through the support of this energy. But I also know it can be protected by spirit as we move forward in the world, because there's so many systems that crash, specifically and you're going to find this even more so in the world moving forward now. In every industry, you're seeing a crash: political, geopolitical, economic, all of that. And it's because the new world is here, and the people in the old world are feeling the crash, right? This whole new world is happening. And I know that distortions in companies can come through very, very quickly. And you've got to, we're not training people we don't program people to be in a certain way, but it's so fluid, it's so divinely orchestrated, and so created in a way. We're always working to create that groundwork for you, that it keeps growing, right? Because it's meant to, because we've done the work. And I know then that, if you let something go through the tall poppy syndrome and it gets all webbed up, the systems crash, and systems are crashing. There's just crashing everywhere, and it's meant to crash. But, you know, I just believe that there's a divinely orchestrated process, and if you're in sync with divine will and you're doing the work behind the scenes and you're making the sacrifices and you're committing financially for that bigger picture, it will be supported, and that's what we're finding, that it's growing. So without the teachers' training, there would be no expansion for you in any way. You'll always just be of service, but you would not be in a position to expand beyond your limitations and become more of an instrument and more connected in the world through your higher self. And you break astral boundaries that you didn't even know were around you. You had no idea that those limitations were in your mind or in the way we were brought up in our inner child or past life wounding. Once we break that break through that boundary through teachers training, I know then I call it in every training, you've stepped over the red line, the invisible red line that's been limiting you. Not only, I believe, in your gifts, in your empowerment process, and the cultivation of your wisdom as well, which is very, very important. That's very empowering because you know who you are. You know that nobody can take that away from you, but it actually empowers you from restrictions in relationships to sense of identity in the world, and even fear around security and money. Because I know without a doubt that growing up, my gift was, could have been a blessing or a curse, but I always knew nobody could take that away from me. Do you understand? And though there would always be a need for that. There was one question I will answer in a moment. I think, Megan, that's in this question here, in this session. And we will go into that in a moment. But I think for now, on a practical level, let's go in and talk a little bit about the practicalities through Megan. And there is, Megan, I think that's correct. There is one question I want to finish with at the end of the session with the teachers to complete that.
So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan. I'm Alexis's daughter, and I assist her when we are doing the fundamental, advanced, and teachers trainings online. I think one of the first things I wanted to say to wrap up what Alexis was discussing was that the teacher training really is an initiation, first and foremost, right? Into what Alexis was talking about, that empowerment process, the breakdown of limitations within yourself to actually um, be a voice in the world. We give you everything that you need to teach the training, but it's something that you grow through beginning from that time when you're in the classroom with Alexis, right? Something shifts, and there's an expansion that occurs, and there's so much opportunity that comes through basically from the teacher training. I do want to mention here, because I didn't mention it in the fundamental training, the way that we complete the trainings online, because I know it's a little bit, when we moved the online to online work, it was not without resistance among our graduate base. And it was really interesting because so many people contacted us afterwards to say how powerful it was for them without all the dross around them, being in a sea of people in a big space, to have it come into their homes and filter into their space. It's really powerful. And you do fit, we do it from our office. We have a full production team there. We can see all of your faces on a big screen in front of you. So Alexis is connecting to you. When somebody sends through a question, we put you up on screen so we could see where you are and in your space and connect with you in that process, right? Everything is recorded and you can go back and review it for 6 weeks afterwards. So if you need to kind of sit back, if the time zone's not appropriate for you or whatever it might be, you have that opportunity to go back and ease into it in your own time as well. But I think one of the things that I wanted to address, and I find, the teach training can be a big leap of faith for a lot of people in a lot of ways. A lot of people join the teachers training without any intent on teaching, or, they complete the fundamental and advanced and they just want to keep going, and they, book in last minute to attend the teachers without any expectation from it, I guess. And I think it's important to go over because it is more expensive than the fundamental and advanced, but it's only one day. So I do wanted to mention there's so much that you get with the teacher training that might not be so on the surface for you to understand. So not only do you get that initiation into the transference healing frequency through Alexis via Lord Melchizedek, okay, and receive the material that you need to run the transference healing, run the fundamental training. Okay. And should you choose to go on to become teachers of the workshops, our Child of Light, Animal Magic, and Beyond Doorways 1 and 2 workshops, you can do that once you become a teacher. Okay. But there's also, provide so many online tools to support you. You have access to the Graduate Gateway, which is basically our support platform for teachers. So I'll just give you a little bit of insight into that. We have a portal basically with a whole bunch of resources for your own advertising, should you go down that route, how to manage festivals and events. You have access to our spiritual tools as a wholesaler, so you can sell them on to your clients. And you might just start with Beyond Doorways book, but something that you can access and have in your space. So you have access to those sorts of things within these resources here. And you also have the opportunity, should you choose to become an affiliate. I'm not going to go into that too much now because I don't want to overwhelm, but there are ways for you to basically, the transference healing, when Alexis always says that, when Lord Melchizedek came through for her, she was shaking in her boots because she knew the responsibility that came with sharing transference healing. And she could have spent the rest of her life running energy on people like all over the world. And she was doing big work with a lot of teachers around the world as well. And that would have been an easier journey for her, right? But her number one goal if you want to call it that, was to empower people. So the point was to teach people so that they could empower themselves. And you, if you step into the teacher training, are making that commitment as well, right? You are being of service already, not only by holding a client base, should you choose to, with a fundamental and advanced, but you're also making that step to empower others, right? And you become their teacher, right? You become the person that guides them through their spiritual journey. Okay. And that's an extraordinarily humbling experience, and something that enriches, I think, your soul growth in ways that are, you know, so many other things aren't able to do, right? And from that, I think I wanted to mention that, again, you know, some people will come in to do the teach training with every intent to teach immediately. And there are some people that will come in for that empowerment process, and then they might start teaching a couple of years later, or they might be in the energy forever and never teach, but they've gone through that empowerment process in themselves and have strengthened that for themselves. A lot of people also come in to move through to the mystery schools, Alexis's mystery schools, which are really, which we'll go through in that Q&A, but are really are an extension of the energy, basically. The fundamental advanced teachers and the mystery schools are transference healing, right? In its totality. So for some people, that's their reason. For some people, they want to teach, and some people just want that empowerment process, okay, to occur for them. And with that, I'm going to ask some questions that came through for Alexis
Can I
from
just say one
Larissa.
thing before we
Mhm,
do that? There's something that
mhm,
came through when Megan was speaking. There's been places that I've been in the world within communities, you know, in Ireland and, you know, in different places where when I started running there, created a big ripple of purification. And I found that in some of these communities, because of their lineages and background, um, and I do feel that there's a lot of genetic healing going through lineages now on the planet. I'm seeing it go back through historical time frames within different places through graduates that I'm now talking to online. I can actually see that healing is getting bigger in the world. And what you find is if there's been a lot of historical and incarnations around trauma, like for Ireland, it was, you know, the church and different places in the world. When I first get there, I would get a sponsor, or I would get there, and the energy got so big so quickly when I was running. This is before the Diamond Pair of Light was just while it was still building. So I had a lot of demand. I was traveling from England, Australia, England, the States, and Ireland in one whole trip over like, you know, 8 weeks, maybe, or 6 weeks, but I was booked out big circles, right? So I'd feel an imprint from different places in the world and different communities. It was almost like looking at a bigger picture of the soul group that would come through. So I would probably do 20, 25 healings in a circle, but 4 of them in one place, go to the next place or in a different country, right? So what I actually found is that ripple effect was like a ripple of the feathers. It would ripple down from those people coming into that community. Two things would happen. There would be a massive purification on a soul group level with this genetic, and in that there would also be a stigmata effect where there would be dynamics of power plays with people who are confronted by it within that community. And you'll find that what happens in the teacher's training, there is an empowerment process that I teach you about. When you've got this innate wisdom running, you know how to deal with conflict that normally you would disempower you. There's something that changes in you where you get this bigger picture, because a lot of people suppress themselves through fear of judgment or conflict or whatever. So my light would get stronger because I knew that there was a massive healing going on. It was empowering so many people, but I knew that there's a small portion within that community that would feel really confronted. Because, and the reason why I knew that is because they were very disempowered, right? And they had to move through that purification process around that. And I knew that was through divine will anyway. So I just what I'm trying to say with this, that I feel like when I've been to these communities and they would keep wanting me to come back. And I got to the place I couldn't come back anymore. It was getting too big. But I would say, and just say I'll use Ireland as an example, but I'm not picking an island, it's all over the world in different communities. But I'd say, well, I'm teaching the Irish to teach. I'm teaching this person, this community to teach, because I know that when that first person within that community steps into that empowerment, it's going to change not only them, but the community. And it's going to empower the community to see one of their own people within that community and then be inspired that I knew that that one person was creating a whole change within the consciousness of that reality. And I knew that. And you'd find in the beginning, or even today, because transference is opening up in a lot of new places in the world, you'll find there will be one that will come. And what you find in the teachers' training, they will come to understand somewhere within themselves that they have the power to counteract any kind of suppression. They're really breaking through limitations, and then they become a guiding light. And I think it's really important to have those guiding lights in the world, not to build a graduate base within that location, but to help break this genetic weaknesses and to help people within the community clear that distortion that's been there for generations, you know what I mean? And that's really important to me. So that's how important it is for somebody to cultivate their wisdom and speak it out. That to me is a teacher within communities as well. Just like there's a black sheep in every family, we're all that black sheep, are we not? So just expand that to a community. All right, Megan, what was the question?
Great. So in the last 10 minutes, let's go over Larissa's questions. The
Yeah.
first of which is, how is the current world situation reflecting what's happening spiritually, and how is this shaping what Alexis is teaching and bringing to the world?
So just say the first question to me again, Megan. I just need to hear that again.
How is the current world situation reflecting what's happening spiritually?
Completely. It's completely. You can't hide it anymore. This is why AI and social, communication's getting so big in the world. It's just part of evolution. It's going to happen, right? This is Atlantean technology, guys. It's going to happen, but it's going to how we utilize that is our free will. But to me, what's actually happening in the world is we're seeing with our eyes, because nothing can stay hidden anymore, you know, through technology. So we're seeing things that have been going on all the time, you know, and all these conflicts and wars and geopolitical and economic abuse, the systems and the structures and the control mechanisms and all of that. I never got caught up in that because I didn't rely on the system. I didn't rely on the world. I found my own way in the world. I fought the odds and I made it happen, right? And my work is getting bigger because people are feeling the systems breaking down, the world changing. So to me, we are now in the fifth dimension. I will be bringing a channeling out in the next two or 3 weeks about this with this Chiron and Taurus transit. We're in the new world, right? But the old world's still existing. Most people are still breaking down the need and the restraints of being in the old world. Once you step over the line, you're in the new world. We're already in that bubble. And I'll explain that in the Mystery School Q&A as well, because the things that I made realizations this year. So what I'm doing is how I lived in the realm of spirit and the people I worked with. I'm now working with more people in the world, because they're moving into the world that I've been living in. Do you see what I'm saying? That's it. It's always been that, but we couldn't make that step until we were utilizing our subtle system and light body and that co-creative process. So for me, I'm reflecting of things I've been saying for 30, 40 years. Even as a child, I've seen it. But now I know the time has come for everybody to make those realizations and clarity through that awakening process, because they're making a choice to be in the realm of spirit in the world that is of the fifth dimension. So to me, the reflection is a reflection of the radical change that we're in, that we have no, like I said, if you heard my channeling for the year, what we don't realize is that we can never go back. So the system breaking down is the fact that we're seeing that the past does not exist, doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
the
think
next
Katie's
question.
question was
No,
in that
we
one.
just got more from Larissa. Hold on two
Okay.
seconds. So how does Alexis manage situations where people are resistant to spiritual teaching and modes of healing and find it unrelatable without evidence? And how do you manage your emotions around wanting to bring something powerful and sacred into the world?
So this is a very good question. There's two things that I did there. As a child, what I came to realize that I couldn't attach myself to what I saw things very differently, but I knew that people couldn't see what I saw. I got that pretty early in life. It's a difficult realization to make, and you probably get that yourself. So that's how I learned just to accept people for where they are. Because being a Chiron in Pisces, I would think, oh, I've got to save them. This is what people say. How do I help my partner? But you can't, it's not up to you to save them. Do you understand? Because they're not ready. They're not ready to see things differently and feel things differently until they're ready. All you can be is true to yourself. So to me, I learned as a young child that I would only have a voice if people asked me, and I knew not to push my perception and what I was seeing on other people because they couldn't see it, right? So that's a big, big teaching. But in saying that too, I also knew that as I was getting older, I also knew that I would not talk to people about things unless I felt comfortable and they knew me for who I was personally or professionally. I just, that's just the way it was. I couldn't live a lie and I couldn't get attached to what people thought of me. I just had to be true to me. And once you can be true to yourself, you don't draw in people that make you feel uncomfortable because they don't want to be around you anyway. So that's good. You don't want that in your life, right? The other thing is you can't what does it mean to help somebody? I've had people come to me in the death and dying, or I've had people come to me when they've had a choice to live or die. And all I know, if I was thinking 3D or 5D a little bit, I would think I just want to help them until I tune into them. And when I tune into them, I see there's so much bigger and more beautiful going on for them that they can see through their higher self. And as they clear in their body and their reality, they'll get more and more clarity in their higher self with their higher self. And they're not living that pain that you see if you're in 3D. So when I'm running energy with them, we're together in the realm of spirit. We're having a wonderful time. We're communing with each other. I come finish the healing. They come back into consciousness. They feel better, but through that process, they've gone through an awakening. So if they were going to leave, I would get a feeling if they're in that death and dying, but they would have changed and they know they're going, and it's a beautiful experience in spirit. And that's how I coped. But if they were not going to go, or they were just coming for a healing and they were in struggle, whatever that was about, we're still in the realm of spirit. They get a clearing, they awaken when they come out. And there's such a level of communion going on between us that that's so fulfilling for me. So I don't feel the pain of people's perception around me. I hate to say the word ignorance. I don't feel the pain of that. I don't need to prove anything to them. I don't need to get caught up in a power play. All I do is I'm there and I draw in what I believe is of my reality, and I choose not to push myself into a reality that is not healthy for me or them. It really comes down to, I think, our attachment, what our attachment's about, and being true to ourselves and knowing spirit is running within us and around us and creating this reality that's conducive and healthy and fluent for us, and not get attached to other piece of choices. That's the most difficult thing. And that's why we have, karmic pain release courts. We cut them because that karmic attachment releases a bit. But I would like everything to be so much better for everybody. But we're in that journey of manifestation now, right? So I have faith. I have faith in what I foresee coming. So that's where I want to sit in the world. That's how I see it. I try really hard not to get caught up in the reality of people's struggle and fear, and just be there at that
One
essence
last
level.
question. Yep, that's great, Alexis.
Thank you.
One last question from Pavey. What do you see for the future of our planet? Do you think that we'll discover alien life?
Oh, it's already here. I mean, we know that, don't we? We see that anyway, but it's getting bigger. That connection's getting bigger. That's a good question, because what I see is, and we're just pulling the fine because the sun's coming into my eyes. What I see is a future now, up until from 1999 up until even 2000, 2020. Oh my God, what a struggle, because we were coming out of that old world. And I do believe there was a lot of restriction and distortion building on the planet. And I felt that there would be a lot of intervention from the angelic plane and the galactic and interdimensional planes. I knew that we were going to need that. And I knew that was also happening when the grid was going through rapid changes for us to, that's why the COVID came through and all that beyond, to unblock us, to really push us beyond the point of no return. So in the last 30 years, 25 years, there's been a lot of intervention. But now because we're getting more light and there's more light coming into the earth and the grid, they're actually they're revealing themselves more to us directly. And more and more people are going to have more intervention from galactic beings through to spirit forces of the earth, the elemental kingdom, and the angelic, of course. That there's going to be an accumulation of interconnection. I do want to share this now because of that particular question. I did, at the beginning of Mystery School, one online in February, March, I did say to Megan, I'll bring this more out in the channeling, that when the war conflict issue in the Middle East really started between Iran, America with Trump, and whether the other one, Israel, I was in a bubble because I was in the Mystery School, and they came through and said, we knew this was, I wasn't attached to the political thing going on. I get big pictures, but I don't go political. I don't look at what's going to happen with the war or what the famine here. I just follow through what spirit guides me to work with and shed light out as much as I can. But they did come through these galactic beings, and I felt that they were Orion, a little bit of Pleiadian going on there, but more Orion. And they said, no, we're like this high council of the Galactic Federation. They said, we just want you to know, Alexis, and you need to let this be known in the world. We did know that there was going to be this come through as a war, and we were very aware of what's going on with nuclear power, and we knew that this was going to happen, and we're watching everything. So it was almost like destiny, and they know what's going on with certain political leaders. That's why you're going to see a lot of changes with the economic, geopolitical landscape, even Australia, all through. You're going to see a lot of changes going on because of this intervention, because that's part of the old world breaking down. And I do believe that within the next, by the time we get to 2029 to 2030, there will be more information coming out. Like they're already saying that, that they know, and there's been UFO ships. I've been places in the States where, I've seen actually how electromagnetic energy has been running in places where there's been a lot of alien activity that's gone online or been, documentaries about. So I can feel an electromagnetic charge in certain places where there's been a lot of this ET activity, and I do channel a lot at different times around that in the past. But there will be, I call it intervention, and we are, because our light system's coming more alive, we're going to have more divine spirit experiences through the realm of spirit through them in our light system to help us move into the new world we're part of, which is an intergalactic connection to other worlds, which is Atlantean Lemurian technology all over again. So I feel very positive about it. I just don't put my energy in the old world. I don't live it. If people start talking about something that is of not that, and I say, well, that's fear, but that's not my that I don't live that reality. I just don't live it. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
beautiful. So I'll just, before Alexis closes off, I'll just let everybody know that the teacher training is a 1 day training, and that will be on the 11th. I believe, yes, 11th of September, and bookings close on the 4th of August. And with the fundamental and advanced and teacher trainings, these are the foundational trainings of transference healing. These 3 trainings, Alexis has been running them since the early 2000s, and they will continue. We'll be continuing to run them, for as long as Alexis can teach for the fundamental, advanced, and teacher training. So they're the foundational practices of transference healing and teachings and initiations, purification, everything that comes along with it. Alexis, do you want to close off?
Okay, so I thank you for connecting in, and I'll see you soon in the physical or etheric. Thank you. Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.